So we're back with episode number 2, and it's all about looking at the way we talk customer engagement. It's all a talk about loyalty today, and it's our second episode of the Openr podcast series. And today we have a new guest, Steve, but also before we come to Steve, I just want to hand the baton over to Joel, because Joel is the founder of Openr, and I thought it would be good to Joel just to reiterate who he is and why he is my co-host on these conversations.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, so I founded Openr 3.5 years ago. Prior to that, I led major digital and omni-channel transformations at Sainsbury's and the Azuri Group. And in those roles, I saw how kind of siloed systems, pricing constraints, fragmented workflows was really hurting performance. And so we built Openr to give operators like clear, easy to use tools that drive sustainable profit growth across their estate by bringing all that fragmentation into one place and solving the fragmentation problem. We've been going for about 3.5 years now. It seems to be resonating in the sector, and I'm hugely excited to be joined by Steve today. Steve and I worked together during my time at Azuri Group, and Steve was always someone I had a huge amount of admiration for in terms of not just the technology that he built, but the problems that he solved for retailers and hospitality operators around the world. So Steve was the founder of Eagle Eye, but much better than me doing a terrible potted introduction, which really let Steve introduce himself in his own words. So Steve, great to have you on the podcast. I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and background and how you got involved in technology and hospitality.
Oh, thank you, Joe. What do you say after an intro like that? So hi, I'm Steve. I'm an engineer, really. Always have been. Love building stuff, really. And about 20 odd years ago, we created Eagle Eye Solutions. Most people wouldn't know about it, but in essence, it was to solve the problem of one-to-one personalized marketing in marketing or loyalty sense. 20 odd years ago, there was really only analog marketing going on. You had a little bit of the Tesco Club card starting, but that was still heavy analog. And what we did is we solved the problem of how you create a one-to-one relationship at scale. So roll on 20 years, Eagle Eye, probably the number one personalized loyalty platform in the world, with some 500 million customers under management trading around the world. And I was the founder. I don't work there anymore. I've taken the back seat to look after the kids a bit more and probably look after myself a bit more. And realistically, I have a lot of love for hospitality, because back in the day when we were a very small business, our first main well-known brand that we signed up was Pizza Express. Back in the day, back when it was Gondola Group, before I think Azuri came out of Gondola Group at some point. And they took a leap of faith with Eagle Eye through the digitization of the Tesco Club card proposition, where you could, I think it was 4-to-1, you got £4 for every pound at the time. And moving from people getting posted vouchers out to digitized vouchers that could be redeemed initially in Pizza Express, then into Ask and Zizi pretty short order afterwards, if I remember correctly, way back 2010-ish. So shows how old I am now. And that's me. Very nice to be here, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Steve. And it's super fascinating. You've been on that journey in retail, and everybody that probably shops in retail have, experienced, these one-to-one personalization, especially in the time we're in right now. We just gone through Black Fridays. I got a lot of personalized marketing that suggested me to buy things I already liked in the category of clothes or whatever it was. So it's really interesting to see how far actually retail is with that compared to if you go to a restaurant setting. But it would be really interesting to hear, why was it so important to solve this problem, Steve, for retail at that point? Because you mentioned retail. I guess retail was the big customers in Eagle Eye, and you said there was some hospitality operators. So it was really retail just to set out the pace.
It's a great question, and I'm going to challenge you on your Black Friday experience. And see, I would argue the fact that you got marketing for something that you're likely to buy because you bought it recently is not personalized marketing, because that is just segmentation and a little bit of data analysis. And realistically, and this comes way back to when I was a graduate engineer at Ericsson, and I was over in San Diego making global star satellite phones work for Ericsson. Yeah, I told you I was an engineer. I'm very boring. Don't take me to the pub. It's not that interesting. And we achieved a milestone to making the first ever GSM phone call over a satellite network. And on that trip, Ericsson got paid whatever millions of pounds contract bounty. But I forgot to take my toothbrush, and you like to brush your teeth when you're away for 2 weeks every now and again. So I bought a toothbrush and I put it on expenses. Famously inside Eagle Eye, this is known as the toothbrush story. And what happened is Ericsson actually rejected my expenses claim for the toothbrush. And it just cemented a core belief I had, which is you should try and treat people the way you would like to be treated yourself. And it struck me that that wasn't possible in the way that analog marketing was done. So we said, and we didn't know much at the time because we were just engineers. We said, actually, what if the world was a case where I could treat Michael differently to Joel, different incentives, very personalized experience. And you might both have an offer for a can of Coke, but you might get £1 off Michael and Joel might get a free pair of socks to buy a can of Coke. I don't know if he needs socks, but he might do.
That'd be nice. Something
We had this, so we had this concept of, literally, let's treat everyone as an individual inside the loyalty and marketing space. And that was starting with the loyalty platforms of Clubcard. Nectar was probably on the way up around then. It probably wasn't certainly not as mature as it is today. And we discovered that after launching a service called buymeabeer.com, which was a virtual drinking round, so I could send you a beer, we learned that everyone wanted to do this, but maybe had the technology to do it. So we pivoted the business to be this engine that realistically allowed every single customer to be treated as an individual. And clearly, where that has the most success is grocery retail, because they've got the large number of customers, they've got a huge number of what's called SKUs, products listed. So Joel will know better than me from his time at Sainsbury's, but I think you could probably see 300,000 plus SKUs in a grocer. And clearly, not every store stocks all 300,000. And sort of upwards of 8 to 15 million individuals. So you need proper technology and proper data behind that technology to be able to treat every individual how they would like to be treated. And that was the genesis of everything that Eagle Eye did. So did we solve a problem? We didn't sit down as entrepreneurs and go, there's an out and out problem here. We had a feeling that people should just be treated a bit better. And we went about building the technology that enabled that. Turns out we were right, and it got adopted, at scale by the major grocers around the world. I wouldn't want anyone to think I was clever enough to go, there's a magic hole over there. There's always a bit of luck in this world, I'm afraid, but we got lucky.
I guess also when you're pursuing the luck, or you're pursuing the hunt as a founder, often there's also something on that journey where you discover it's a bit different than I thought, but there is something about what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read a LinkedIn post only this morning about somebody had asked Elon Musk about how to be successful as an entrepreneur, and he said, build stuff that is useful to people, and then everything else will follow. Don't, if you set out to say, I'm going to make loads of money, you never will. Just solve the problems. Make sure the problem's real. Make sure you can solve it at scale and solve it with a what's the word, where your honesty or whatever, transparency and honesty, and everything else will follow. But solve a real problem first. Don't try and make a problem to solve just to serve your own gain. And it's just like that. We just thought that people should be treated a bit better.
And coming back to my Black Friday example, you said you wanted to challenge me a bit, but how does it look for the customer then? How does it look and feel when you have personalized marketing and customer experience?
It does evolve over time, and depending on the maturity of the data that you have behind. But as an example, and grocery is what I know best, there will be products that I buy every week. So actually, if you want to create loyalty, reward me just for doing the basics with you first. But then there'll be stuff that is not a regular purchase. So don't try and incentivize me to buy washing powder every week when you know I bought the family pack of 4 billion washing tablets, which will take at least 8 days or 20 days to use up. You try and work out what's relevant to me, make it relevant to me. And my cycle of life is different to Joel's cycle of life, is different to your cycle of life. So every time, just think about what would benefit that customer. And if you make that customer's life a bit better, you get loyalty as a side effect. Because loyalty isn't technology. Loyalty is an emotion that comes from providing value to your customer, which means just carpet bombing everyone with the same offer isn't adding any special value to me. It's not changing my behavior. It's just another Black Friday. And I know it does really well. I'm not sure how well it really does, because I got thousands of emails for stuff that either I only bought last week. I mean, like, I bought a GoPro 2 weeks ago, and I got 5 emails offering me to buy a GoPro, the same GoPro from GoPro, who I bought a GoPro off. I mean, like, seriously, how many GoPros do I need?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good offer. I'm like, maybe I need one on each hand. I don't know, but it's just crazy. And it's because there's no like proper thinking going in. There's no critical thinking about how to improve the customer's life half the time. It's just an exercise done, which is let's advertise GoPro Hero 13 to everyone who might want to go, even if you bought one 2 weeks ago.
Steve, can I ask you a question about the relationship between like imagination and creativity and technology? And what I mean by that is you started off with this vision of personalized, one-to-one marketing and an engine that ultimately enables that for retailers. I can't imagine when that started 20 years ago, there was any anticipation it would be used in the way it's now being used today, across Clubcard, Nectar, a whole other platforms. But all of that innovation, over the last few years, but over the last decade, has ultimately been powered and unlocked by platforms like Eagle Eye. How do you bridge that kind of gap between foundational technology that, as a technologist, needs to be in place in these businesses because of what it will unlock, and then how you fire the imaginations of the marketing leaders, the executive leaders, the finance leaders around what that technology will unlock when you're building it for the first time?
It's probably the inverse answer that you'd expect, unfortunately. We started off with the capability of in essence, a personalized gifting service. And in doing that, what we learned was that the brands wanted to be able to connect to individual customers through digital means. What used to be posting something out or door dropping or flyering in London could become digital overnight. And that's why we pivoted to be more of an engine, because we didn't have the marketing knowledge or the skill to go and actually sign up enough brands, sign up enough pubs, etc., to make Buy Me a Beer work. And when we did that, what we found is by talking to the customers, our customers, not the end consumer, what you find is there's quite a lot of imagination and creativity in these businesses, but because of the business, the way the businesses are structured, the inertia of businesses, 5-year roadmaps and things like that, they were lacking the actual capability to go and try, experiment and realize the value of it. When we first did the Tesco project, to digitize cup, Tesco openly said they didn't think it would work. They didn't think their customer would want to go to an email delivery. That was part of the concept. And who would I don't know. Like, nobody had done it before. But they gave it a go. And what they found is, when they'd given it a 9-month trial, we hit 96% of Pizza Express customers opting for digital in the first 3 months. And all of a sudden, it's like massive penny drop, light drop maybe, where they went, actually, people will be responsive. So I think the intersection really is being prepared to try, having the technical nails to deliver something, but the willingness to try these things, because you only truly know if you're willing to give it a go. I think there was something, to being all philosophical, there were some of these great philosophers who said, it's not the strongest that survive, it's those that are most willing to change. And it is exactly that. And so being prepared to go, look, we know this over here costs a load of money, or we know our experience over here is, we don't actually for sure know the answer, but we know the rough direction of travel has to be digital or technology based. So let's try it and let's be agile and let's move as we learn. And as you do that, you then meet great people. And we were very lucky to meet Loblaws over in Canada, which is probably one of the most innovative grocers in the world, probably one of the best loyalty programs in the world, who took the sort of technology ideas we had and some of the amazing people over there actually shaped that into this hyper personalized, full on, all singing, all dancing power engine that it is now. So the trick is not to do it, I guess, to answer your question, is be prepared to try, be prepared to listen to your customers, and be prepared to see what happens. I'm not sure that answers your question, but it's a sort of rough area.
There's something I was thinking about, Steve, as well, is that who do you perceive as the top 3 operators, retailers that master this in the world right now?
Certainly in the UK, you could never look past Tesco. I mean, like, they've led very well from the Tesco Club Card point of view. You would argue right now that Nectar over at Sainsbury's isn't too far off the Tesco Club Card universe, and you see that in their results, and you see that in how they're talking. But I've always said that Tesco, and certainly at Eagle Eye, we're very lucky to have Terry Leahy, the former Tesco CEO, on the board, and Tim Mason, the deputy CEO, running that company. Got a lot of insight from that, and they do lead it. The challenges proposition that Tesco Club Card are running at the moment, which is giving everyone every month a chance to earn £50, monumentally brilliant to achieve digital engagement. I have a lot of love for Sainsbury's, literally a lot of love for them, and I think they're being very creative and innovative in the Nectar world. Joel might disagree. I'd argue they are behind Club Cards still a bit, but it's not orders of the magnitude different as it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then internationally, Loblaws in Canada, I think, is probably the best in the world. Probably a phenomenal business. And then I think I look probably more towards a Woolworths in Australia. Now, I am biased. They're all clients of Eagle Eye. I know more about their businesses than would be on the public domain, so I accept that. But I feel, and then outside of grocery, even though I don't think they're doing particularly well now. I think Pets at Home, very important pets, is just genius and that's not an Eagle Eye client. And I think that's genius marketing and concept, and like because people like pets, like they're quite happy to be loyal to help pet charities. It sounds so simple when you say it, doesn't it? Afterwards, somebody's done it. And then from a hospitality point of view, clearly, I think Nando's cracked open the can of worms about 10 years ago when they did the chicken stamp card, or only 5 chickens to get a free chicken, or whatever it was. I'm not sure they've moved on as much as they could. I think I would go Pizza Express probably, mainly because of their multi-channel. The fact that you get pizza slices, which are points basically, I guess, from buying Pizza Express pizza in Tesco's and Sainsbury's as well as you can in store. And I think this joining the channels up resonates and is quite good. I can keep going, by the way. Car wash, car wash, very unique. I think car wash is a loyalty scheme for the gig economy taxi drivers. Genius. They have to wash their car every day. Captain market. Capture it. So there's a lot of innovation everywhere. But the ones that win are the ones that are offering ease and value to the customer.
And where we took like the map of the best in the world and then put it on, where is hospitality in your view now, today? Because we talked a bit about it in the last episode, Joel, and we talked about it before on the podcast. There's been this, rapid ramp up of tech solutions into hospitality, but they might not always be connected. But where do you see it from your expertise, Steve, from a customer experience and personalization and loyalty point of view, where hospitality is in the general terms?
I think, again, it's a good question. It's not the easiest one to answer. I think hospitality, I think there's 2 answers and 2 sides to it. Hospitality, by the nature of it, is actually quite a way behind technology wise in their back office systems, their data models, their data processing, their streamlining of systems. And because of the pandemic, they put a lot of effort into the front of house digitization. And for me personally, I think I would be focusing more on the operational side with hospitality right now, because the frequency, and again, Joel would know better than me, but I think the frequency of most hospitality brands is like 4 times a year, maybe 5 in some of the higher frequency ones. It's taking away from the quick serve sort of Mackie D's and Burger King sort of thing. And I think there's a huge amount that could be done to improve the experience back of office, improve like front of house, make it easy so I don't have to like sign up to the Wi-Fi every time, which is like my biggest bugbear. But then just remember, it's in the title, hospitality, it's in the title. Make my experience great when I'm in store. Hospitality is serving. So like, I was in there, I won't name the brand, but I was with my daughter and we had lunch together at the weekend, and I wanted to pay the bill 3 times. They told me to scan the QR code in a place where there's no mobile signal. I had to ask 4 times for the bill. They really didn't want to serve me. I was like, come on, guys, I just want to pay my bill. And I think they have to remember that when you're in a place like that, loyalty is an emotion. It comes from the service. So I think there's huge amounts you can do. And I think there's a real world where, from a personalization point of view, remember things like, I'm diabetic, I'm glucose intolerant, like as soon as I come in, like, and I look at the digital menu, free field trip, because you know something about me. Make it personal to me, or you make it feel like I'm special when I'm in there. And I think that's why I love my local curry house, because I go around there, they don't know me really, but they remember me, and they make you feel really welcome every time you go in. Really welcome. They say some inappropriate jokes, I'm sure, but they make you feel welcome. And I think that's really important. So hospitality's got a lot to do. And it's in the news all the time, isn't it? It's like getting beaten up for this, budget that, blah, 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 blah. I think remember you're there to serve people, and that will go a long way, would be my initial view.
Joel, how does that connect with the conversations you have about? Because I guess when people talk with you, it's all about want to prepare for the future, want to be more digital, want to do things faster, better, engage the customers and the employees better in using the tools.
I think what we see is very similar to what Steve has been talking about, but both in terms of the desire to deliver great hospitality and put the customer first, the desire to innovate, to deliver that, and the frustration that the tools that exist in the sector are inhibiting those things and making it harder than it should be. So we have, several conversations with execs in the sector that are wanting to be more agile with their menu development process, with their approach to pricing, with their approach to personalization, lots of different kind of areas there and topics. And universally, there is always a barrier to delivering that innovation. And we ultimately think that a lot of that comes down to an ecosystem that is more closed than open. And I think it's really interesting to hear a bit from Steve on the journey that retail went on kind of technologically over the last 10 to 15 years that has enabled a lot of the innovation, whether it's My Next Prices or Quests, etc. There was a journey technically which moved from a relatively closed ecosystem, lots of fragmented technology, different platforms and pricing engines for e-commerce versus in-store versus rapid delivery versus delivery platforms, etc. And the retailers, and this is part of my experience at Sainsbury's, went on a long journey of both consolidating that, but then also opening the architecture up such that systems could speak to one another much more easily. Data could be transferred at scale much more easily, which sounds kind of quite like technical and grey and dull. And, it's not necessarily something a CFO or a CEO is going to get super excited about, but what it unlocks is hugely exciting. So, Steve, I wonder if you'd be able to tell us a little bit about kind of what that felt like and what it going on that journey in the grocery retailing space and what that kind of technological modernization has enabled them to achieve.
Yeah, and firstly, I'll say I think it's still ongoing. I don't think like a lot of places are there yet. I think the in the old world, when I first started Eagle Eye, talking to a grocer, and you wanted to do something innovative, which would like connect to a POS or something like that. The rule was, unless it was worth 100 million, you weren't going to get into the top 10.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how do you know it's not? How do you know it's not worth 100 million? And it turns out it's worth a couple of billion now, but at the time you can't. Well, you get like it's just the weirdest question. Prove to me it's worth 100 million, I might think about it. It's like crazy. Yeah, it's just crazy. But what I think happened is predominantly the advent of people talking about APIs really is what changed it. I think APIs have been around for a long time, but I think generally the level of understanding of what an API was, how you use it, the HTTPS protocols coming through strongly and all that sort of stuff. I think it led to the world where people could see that actually you get to make a choice. And if you're a $45 billion business, you make some big choices, right? But you get to make a choice, which is you could either be a platform ecosystem, which a lot of retailers in the world are, which you basically buy everything off one supplier, and it's that supplier's problem to make those things work together. And you don't really care how, but you're stuck within their roadmap, their constraints of what they want. And any change you want to make is a fairly chunky price comes with it. Big multi-million pound projects. You're in the world of 2 releases a year. Come hell or high water, there is a POS release at the end of September. It will go. If it breaks, we will roll it back within 4 minutes because there's 40 billion pounds going through that. And the ability to actually move just wasn't there. But the APIs brought around the world of microservices. Very, very often misused language because really a microservice should sit inside a black box, not outside it, but people use it. But you get this concept of multiple services, which led to the world of being able to buy best of breed, being able to be modular in your approach. I will have a pricing system that will work for digital and work for in-store, work for petrol, whatever. I will have a procurement system that will do my reordering of mushrooms consistently across whatever it may be. Loyalty as a service. I will have one loyalty engine that will enable promotions and the correct promotions. So Joel gets the same offer whether he's shopping on his phone or on the e-com or in store. So you get this world. No, you still end up with these two type models, best of breed or platform, and then you end up with industry bodies like the Mac Alliance coming through, which preach all about interoperability, composable connections, and they've done a great job really globally of raising the awareness of in essence best of breed purchasing things. But I think it went first in grocery retail that way because they had the biggest cost hiding in those in the legacy world, and B, they needed to move faster because if they didn't move faster, Amazon was stepping ahead of them every 2 weeks in their release cycle. So they had to become more agile. They had to become more advanced. And I would argue there's a potential that the same exists in hospitality because of the delivery networks, which is you're either going to become a kitchen or you've got to innovate quicker in your stores to be able to keep up with the digital first type scenarios. So I think there was a commercial need, there was good technology logic, and the results very quickly showed that by having a best of breed pricing engine or a best of breed product listing system or loyalty system, you were able to innovate at a rate they'd never seen before and launch new products to consumers in a much more digital A/B test scenario. Then if you think about it, if you've got an 18-month wait list to get on the change list, you're not A/B testing that. So you put all your eggs in one basket. It's just not the right thing to do. So better frameworks, better best of breed boxes to do their thing, creates more agility, creates more ability to A/B test, which means that you don't have to make every decision doesn't have to be correct. You can make bad decisions because you can change it within 2 weeks.
I wonder if you can bring it to life, Steve, a bit more in terms of some of the things that you kind of your customers, when you're at Eagle Eye, are doing today that they wouldn't have been able to do had they not invested in that kind of open, modular, API-driven technology stack.
Yeah, so and there's a few examples, but launching of new offers, new offer constructs. So I mean, like everyone will have had this. It's a bad example, but maybe buy 4 for the price of 5. No, buy 5 for the price of 4 would be a better offer. If the pods didn't know about that, and the e-commerce engine didn't know about that, and the mobile engine didn't know about that, that would be 3 projects on a roadmap to go and get this new offer type done. And that would take, I don't know, 6 months possibly at times if those teams are busy. But with that, you could add that new offer construct in 2 weeks because it's central. And it might be that the consumers didn't resonate with it. So you turned it off again, but you could do it in 2 weeks. Stamp cards, creating, frequency drivers, quest type scenarios, those things sort of was nothing to 6 weeks to being rolled out in Tesco sort of stuff. So there's a lot of possibility. The charity stuff, something happens on a Friday and by Monday, the retailer can be up and running with a campaign to give loyalty points to a charity. In disaster zones, if that agility to move fast, which wasn't new to pure play e-com businesses, but it was new if you had a store estate. And remember, if you have a store estate, you've got probably 80% plus of your revenue coming from brick and mortar. Yeah. So you can't just focus on the e-com. It's why the AI argument is a bit funny. Hey, you're going to have AI shopping for you. Well, it'll be a percentage of e-com. Well, a percentage of 10% isn't very much when you've got a £45 billion business. So the real question is, how is AI going to affect the in-store experience? Because that's where the money is. It's the wrong questions being asked.
Fascinating, isn't it, Steve? Because you just articulated some of the kind of pain points that would have existed around, synchronizing promotions across channels, for example. And yet there will be listeners to this podcast in the hospitality sector that are operating in a world where they can't do discounts on their order and pay table, or they can't earn loyalty points on the kiosk. You have to do that at the till. And there are some operators that have progressed beyond that, but I would still argue that it is the norm that there is a much more fragmented experience across those channels in hospitality relative to retail. Why do you think that is, Steve? And how do we need to be thinking differently about this?
Well, this might be the controversial bit. It's all about the technology stack. Okay, so hospitality on the whole is still I haven't looked, possibly a year may have changed, but on the whole is what I'd call a platform. Like, you tend to buy off single big suppliers and you get the best that they can do in the things that is not their core speciality. It's like going to an Italian and ordering a burger. The burger's not going to be the greatest. The pizza is, it's that sort of thing. So I think that actually being prepared to break up that model and actually go have the best of breed bits to help you on your mission, whatever your mission may be. And you don't need to do everything in one go. You just slice it like an onion and pull a bit off. I see the hospitality sort of suppliers out there, and generally they've got a finger in every pie. And it's not really gone the full, in what I would call the full Mac composable type vision yet. And I think they need to do that, because if they don't, the people who do will succeed ahead of them, and they'll be left catching up. So as you do with your business, Joel, is you're providing like a very key component to every hospitality brand out there. They need to accept that that's a key component. Use that one for that. We'll use this one for loyalty. We'll use this one for shipping or whatever, and break up that stack and be prepared to say, look, we want people who are the experts in their domain, and we want those domains to talk together seamlessly.
And this may be both of you, but is the foundation in place in hospitality to do that, or is there some foundational work? that needs to be done from a tech stack and thinking point of view
I think,
to get to there?
actually, bizarrely, I think the foundation problem in hospitality is a foundation problem they've had for the last 15 years. It's the investment in the network connectivity to the stores, like, creates the fear of doing anything. I think like, again, grocery has the advantage of they stick a massive internet pipe in. They're pretty much guaranteed to stay online nowadays. You've got to have BT cut through three different modes at the same time to take out a store type scenario. I think that the eternal fear of hospitality is, if I'm not connected, if the store goes offline, what I think. And if that was overcome, and it presumably is overcome with a little 5G router nowadays, you'd probably get a lot more willingness to go more service orientated in the approach.
I'd agree with that, Steve. My time at Azeri, our kind of biggest investment outside of digital was in network infrastructure, because we inherited, effectively dial-up speed lines running over copper into these sites that, you wouldn't even be able to access the basic website on, consistently. So if there's anyone listening to this podcast that has not yet invested in the networks in their restaurants, I would say that's the thing that you should do yesterday. I think you also, I love the way that you think about this, Steve, in terms of that, like modularization. And I think hospitality operators need to start to think in that world, in terms of, my CRM, my loyalty, my menu, my pricing, my supply chain. And that doesn't need to be a technical conversation, because you'll know what those domains are, because we typically build our organizations around them, and we build our organizational structures around them. But to then look deeply within each of those domains to understand, do you have a credible, scalable, robust system of record that has inbuilt intelligence, but then openness effectively around it, so it can talk and communicate with all of those other systems of records, would be what I would recommend as the kind of first step of pulling together that roadmap. And as Steve said, you don't need to do this all at once. You can prioritize based on, and my typical recommendation is you prioritize based on value, to the business, value in terms of what your strategy is and what your outcome is and what your objectives are, which will obviously change year to year. So you may be focusing on labor optimization in the light of the recent budget announcements and just the increase. So start there. Or you may be focusing on menu and price optimization because you need to find ways of better managing price increases in a tricky time with low consumer confidence, but increasing costs. So start there. For every business, that's going to be different. But just mapping that out onto a physical wall within your office and understanding those kind of different domains, and then say, well, who is our key supplier and who is our key partner? What does that partner's capability enable us to do? But then ask the question, is it open? And am I going to be able to live in a world where it can communicate with all of the other systems and platforms? And that is especially coming into an era of AI-driven, agentic-driven decision-making. It will become more important than ever. Like, if your core platforms and systems of records do not have great data structure and they're not open by default, you can forget about all of this dream that we have within hospitality of AI driving improved productivity and better outcomes for the same cost, which is the dream, and it is possible. That is what AI is going to enable. And that's really exciting for hospitality, because it's a sector which is, smaller than retail on a per operator basis. It doesn't have hundreds of marketers sitting in the marketing team. So we need to give them AI-driven tools that are going to enable them to deliver 10, 20, 30x the output that they could by themselves. But that is only going to happen if you invest in the fundamental building blocks and the connectivity between those building blocks.
Steve, now Joel brought up the question around AI. I would love to hear your view on, everybody's talking about AI, and it seems like Joel comes from the world of having your foundation. We talk about foundations in place, data there has to be data discipline, to have the, good data in, great data out. That's what I hear Joel says. But what is your view?
I think realistically, it's quite a wide, like AI has been used as quite a wide term to cover different things. So the biggest truth of everything is if you can't organize your data, AI can do nothing, right? It literally can do nothing. All AI is a statistical probability engine, nothing more. Okay, it's the same as the I am and Joel is. We answer based on our data set that's in our memory banks in our head of what school we went to, what learnings we had, and and that sort of thing. Which ironically, like you learn something like Joel and I went to the same school 15 years apart, but you wouldn't know, but the AI will do great things, but it'll only do great things in areas where there's great data. Okay. That's why you see it being in healthcare, being really useful for finding cancers and things because there's a huge amount of data to teach it on. Okay. So the concept that AI, so many companies come out with AI, this, AI, that, when they haven't got a data set behind it, it can't do anything if it hasn't got a data set. It is only ChatGPT at that level, right? So get your data right. And I think businesses in general have to have a concept of two datas. One is the businessy data, like the supply chain, the HRE, the financey, all that sort of stuff. And that's like not a great name, business intelligence type data. And the other is what I call more your consumer data. And I think you have different data sets treated differently for GDPR, etc., like that. And then you work out the use cases for them. But you've got to start off with getting your data organized in a way that is accessible and open. It doesn't all have to be in the same system anymore, but the AI engine has to be able to get clarity across multiple systems for a business concept, and that's where you'll optimize business. And the way you'll optimize the consumer is very undecided yet in the market, very undecided. My gut feeling is that we're going to see Gemini become the number one chat interface in the next year and overtake ChatGPT. No data set behind it, by the way, gut feeling. And the reason is I just feel that the purposefulness of AI is unclear yet. It's on the whole, like I use it all the time, but I spend most of my time trying to work out how to make a prompt work, the right prompt or the right thing. Now, if I look at my family, we have a fridge at home. Most people have a fridge, nothing unusual there. We have magnets on the fridge, which got bits of paper stuck on them, trying to remind me to buy this, do that, pick the kids up here, and it just strikes me that probably 90% of the population aren't looking for a PhD in their pocket. They're looking for the AI to be the co-pilot just to help them get through the day. So I think there's a whole world of, I would love to here's my use case for hospitality. I want to take the kids out for lunch on Sunday. The AI should go and work out that one's got ballet, one's got swimming, that Guildford's better than Godalming, and it can book me a table at ZZ in Guildford at 12:30. It should do all the stuff that I would normally go and spend half an hour looking at diary here, looking at diary there, booking, Open Table, whatever the restaurant booking thing is. It's just a waste of my time. And history teaches us that the things that succeed in the consumer domain are things that make customers' life easier, reduce the cognitive load. Amazon, Facebook, Google, Uber, PayPal, they all have the same property. They just made it easier for the consumer to be a bit more lazy. But I'd argue Deliveroo, Instacart, Just Eat is exactly the same as that. So for me, business AI, get your data right, consumer AI, focus on the customer, making their life easier, if that helps.
I think that's a great way of looking. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Joel, on that.
I resonate with what Steve said. It's ultimately about the quality of your data. And it's amazing how many people we speak to that want to optimize their menu and optimize their pricing strategy, but they don't know what their menu looked like 14 months ago without kind of going to a shared drive and opening a PDF file. And that's an illustrative example of AI can really help you understand the relationship between your menu design, your pricing strategy, sales performance, customer insight, etc., but only if you've got all those data sources connected and well structured, a great CRM that helps you understand who ate, where and when, what they bought, a great menu and pricing platform that tells you what you were selling, how much you were selling for, where you were selling it, what the structure of that menu looked like, etc. There's great promise in that, but as a sector, my worry is that we are still quite far away from having those foundations in place, and there's a risk that we get sold snake oil and kind of chase the kind of shiny, sexy stuff on top. Which if it's built on sand, I could use another word beginning with S, but if it's built on sand, it's going to deliver limited returns. And then in terms of consumer, and I guess for individuals just using GPT, Gemini style like AI workflows in their day-to-day job, the best way of articulating the level of the technology at the moment that I've heard is think of it like a really smart 15-year-old kind of intern. That they can learn things very quickly, but they need a lot of guidance, which is why we're spending so much time kind of engineering the correct prompt. And my word of wisdom, for what it's worth for the sector, would be to think deeply about kind of how they're interacting with these chatbots and AI tools, because I've come across lots of instances where we're effectively relying on the output, having not thought hugely about the input that we've given to it, which is when it's subject to lots of bias and hallucination. So huge amounts of potential, but there needs to be a big investment in how to use the tools as they exist today in order to get value from them.
Love it. Steve, a couple more questions I would really like to hear your take on, because you build your own business and you don't do that without, improving 1% every day. Innovation is also called, but I just call you need to move every day when you run a business. How do you actually cultivate that kind of culture? And what is it that hospitality leaders should be looking for? You've seen with some of the best brands in the world that really nailed personalization and customer loyalty.
Well, it's probably an impossible question to answer. I think if you look at LinkedIn and look at that sort of world, you genuinely people have a million and one different opinions. I think the truth is it's down to good leadership. And I'm not saying I'm a good leader, in that over the years, I learned so much about interacting with people, leading with people, to a point where I'm not sure I was a leader at all. I was much more a follower of the great people inside the business. And I think creating the freedom for ideas to come to the surface, users, people understand different bits, that have a voice. I just think that actually, even though we go into this crazy AI world, AI is fundamentally flawed because it only learns off history. It can't create a future. And I think the critical thinking, the innovative thinking of people is so important. So creating the framework, even though there are silos, you've got to create sort of cross-team working groups, idea sharing, experience sharing, getting people out for a beer, going bowling. I think we're in danger of overlooking the human side, and I don't believe AI can succeed without the human as the guy at the front of the orchestra doing that thing.
The composer,
doing that. So my view on how to improve a business, how Eagle Eye grew, is to learn constantly about yourself and try and improve yourself, try and make every day a better day. And if I'm in a grump because I've got a bit of the flu, don't take it out on the whole team. But trust them to run and build things. I was really lucky in that Tim Mason, we put him in as CEO of Eagle Eye 7-8 years ago, and he's known as the god of Tesco Clubcard. He put Clubcard in '96, and he's known in the market as this genius marketer, and he is. But what he was much better at was helping the executive team become leaders, and that really is what changed Eagle Eye into the global workhorse it is now. As much as his brand went. And I honestly, I don't think he likes me saying it. But I think that was his big strength, really powerful strength. And so I think to grow a business, listen to your people, hire the right people. And the very negative side to that, when I say hire the right people, if you've got the wrong person, you're not doing your business or that person a favor by making them do a job they hate. So be prepared to do the right thing, act quickly, and trust your people.
Love the answer. I think it's very relevant in the AI conversation, actually, that leadership is still forward looking and actually something human needs to do. And I totally agree with that. If we just look a couple of years ahead, and that could be to both of you this question, like in 5 years' time, doesn't seem far away, but there's all these people also coming on other podcasts talk about AI, how it's going to change the world in 2030. But in your view, Steve, how does the world actually look like when it comes to customer engagement, personalization, and loyalty in 2030? What is that the consumer either is going to be presented with or what?
Yeah, good question. Like, we get this right, and we'll all be millionaires.
Yeah. Then I'm going to invest in you, Steve. Yeah.
I feel like we're going into. I feel from the way the consumer interacts with things in general. I think you'll see it being very voice driven as you go from clicks to conversation in voice. I think also when the smartphone came out, everyone coined the phrase "there's an app for that." I think there'll be one master app which will interact with all my other apps, either over the net or just on a device. I think that master app, like whether it's Siri or Alexa or whatever the Google Assistant is called these days, will be my main point. I think it will help, and it will become equivalent of my best friend. I think there's a massive hole in the market around trust, because I'm a human. I have an emotional trust to things. AIs don't. So when I say I want to go for lunch with my family, that AI engine would need to know that I trust Ask Zizi and Pizza Express, but I don't trust X, Y, and Z. Therefore, even though it could book them, it shouldn't book them. Same as I trust the BBC weather, but I don't trust BBC News. All these things are going to become a thing when you've got an agent acting on your behalf. So there's a mammoth hole in trust, a whole trust ecosystem. And you do trust now, naturally, by the way. When you go on Google and you do a Google search, your eyes scan the page and you see the BBC weather forecast there, so you click it. That's your subconscious applying your trust matrix to that. I see Zizi for dinner in Basingstoke. I trust Zizi. I click that. There might have been 5 other Italian restaurants on that list, but I trust that one. So my subconscious is doing it. As soon as you go to an agentic world, the agents have to understand that trust model. So I think you're coming out to an interesting world, and I think every experience will be highly personalized to me. I think when I like simple things like even like health issues, like do you have any allergies? No, they will just know what allergies I've got. Are you diabetic? Are you gluten intolerant? It will just know. So I think you'll get a highly personalized experience, which will lead, I believe, to a personalized menu, a personalized offer thing. Like the menu would be so much easier if it put the things I really liked at the top, so I didn't have to go looking for them every time. If you think about it. So I think everything will come down to a much more cleaner, simpler conversational interface with high levels of personalization coming at me. But the real problem I worry about is AI. If AI takes away the jobs for the youth, we're all fine for 10 years because we've got that critical thinking and that experience. I worry about the young people, how they will learn the skills to be able to provide that critical thinking in the future. That's my real concern about the evolution of AI. We must remember to train the next generation.
So, Steve, if people are very curious now and thinking, I would love to connect with Steve, ask him some more questions, what is the best way of connecting with you?
Yeah, you can get me on LinkedIn at Stephen with a PH, John Rothwell on LinkedIn.
And we'll drop that in the show notes to help people to find it. Great. Thank you so much, Steve and Joel, for joining us for this conversation around personalization and customer loyalty. Sending you both power and energy for the journeys ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Michael.